Hi everyone, my name's Jillian Soder. I'm the owner of Body Labs Yoga here in the Edmonton area. For those of you who don't know me, I started yoga a long time ago, probably about 20 years ago I started yoga, and just for a personal practice, and carried that personal practice through my university years, through the years of growing my family with pre and postnatal yoga classes. And then when I was at university, I took forensic anthropology, so working with skeletal remains a lot, human variation, that sort of thing, and a lot of anatomy, including gross anatomy dissection. And then I worked at the medical examiner's office for a few years as a pathology tech, doing autopsies there. And then I worked for the transplant program at the University Hospital for the tissue center there. So as a coordinator for them, I spoke with families at time of death about donation, as well as doing recovery of the tissues. So that would be skin, bone, ocular tissue, heart valves, that sort of thing, for transplant purposes. So that's kind of my educational background. Once I had my second child, I decided not to return to the transplant program, and I decided to get my yoga teacher training. So I took my 200 hour, and as I was going through my 200 hour, I had a few questions. Things kind of didn't really match up always for me, which is usually the case. You know, we all have our own questions as we go through things. But then I started teaching, and that's when I really found the gaps that were present. And especially with my training and with the variability that I had been taught in my university years and that I had seen through my career, I really was starting to struggle with some of the cueing and some of the golden rules that we have in our yoga practices. And so I started to develop a little bit more in my own teaching. And I have created Body Labs out of those questions, really. I now have my 500 hour training under my belt, and I am working with teacher training groups, which is fabulous, and it's what I really, really enjoy and excel at. And so the classes that I teach for the public are really based on this objective look at the human body, and maybe looking at some of the cues and asking myself why it is that we use them, and maybe we should throw them out. So thinking about like the traditional cue of not placing the foot on the inner knee, and how silly that is when we tend to put the foot on the inner knee when we are in a side plank position, and yet we're told in a standing position like tree pose, we can't do that. So just looking at some of those variations that really don't align with what's actually happening in the tissues as we're practicing. And so I've taken some of those questions and I've developed some of my workshops out of them. And I'm really wanting to help new teachers fill in some of those gaps that we're finding in the 200 hour training that exist. Because what is really unfortunate about our industry is that we are at this point where we need to start being taken a little bit more seriously by the medical community. And a lot of doctors are starting to send their patients to us for finding more mobility in the body and that sort of thing after injury or after surgery. And yet the Yoga Alliance, the regulating body within North America for us yoga teachers, has decreased the number of hours required for anatomy instruction in person during a 200-hour training. There's only 10 hours that are now required for contact training, so in-person training for a 200-hour course. So we as yoga instructors need to get a little bit more noisy about that, telling the regulating body what it is that we need in order to teach the public, teach these people who are walking into our class and who typically don't have a good relationship with their bodies, for many, many reasons. But we need to have a better understanding of why we're cueing things the way we're cueing them, and maybe question a little bit more why we're cueing things the way we're cueing them. So that's a little bit about me. That's an idea of where I am going with the Body Labs program and company that I am currently in the process of building and developing. If you wanted to check me out, I've got some of my public classes listed, and I also have workshops coming up. I've got a SOAS workshop coming up in January working with Sherry Ariel, and the two of us are going to offer this fabulous over 3 hours worth of information about the SOAS. And then I am also at the end of January running my limbs lab. So if you're interested in anything limbs related and how it relates to the rest of the body and the trunk and the core muscles, that will be a really, really informative one, especially for new instructors or really serious students. So that's a good one. That's going to be 4 hours long. And I'm really excited about offering those two workshops. So please join me. Check me out online. It's www.bodylabs.com, bodylabsyoga.com, my apologies. And reach out to me. I'd love to chat with you and hear a little bit more about you. You can check me out on Facebook and Instagram as well.